Um, this is my experience with Christianity. You know, growing up as a Christian boy, um, you know, believing in nothing but the Bible and the scriptures, and that way of life. Um, control my whole the source, the blueprint of who I was. So, and my escape from that was to do things for myself. You know, was to read and write for myself or whatever. The Bible, I've been taught my whole life, but and I had to interpret that. You know, I had to get that interpreted rather from other people. Had to interpret, what I was reading. You know, all these years, I read and went to people, to ask what did this mean, and you know, and they shaped and formed, what it was, and that was the source of my problem. So, um, doing things for myself, um, you know, reading for myself. After I read the Bible for myself, I found out that um, for myself, I found that it was different from what I was told and what was interpreted to me. You know, when you growing up as a child, you can't help what's being taught to you. You can't help but to go along with what's going on. Or who you think you are. So I had to look at things for myself, and that's how I came to the understanding that I have now. That basically you can't understand anything until you understand it for yourself. Get rid of all the interpreters. At one point I went from one spirituality from the Bible, Christianity, to another form of spirituality. And the only thing I was doing was like a drug. It's like a gateway drug. You go from one thing and you replace it with the other. You gotta let the whole thing go. Well, got anything to do with spirituality. Let all of that go. That's the rehabilitation. That's you know, and let everybody, the interpreters, all the interpreters, you addicted to the interpreters, until you read for yourself, or until you black everybody out, you know, you can never understand, reality. You will always be begging for that next hit. That's a high. You know, Going from teacher to teacher, understanding this. You reading something. It don't matter what book you reading out of. I read out of the Bible or whatever. So any religion, is pertaining to the same or whatever. Uh, Reading the Bible, for me or whatever, uh, uh, was my escape. Was my drug at one time. You know, so and the whole thing was the spirituality thing. Uh, I transferred that into the other, into other spiritualities, and listen to all these gurus, who have the answer, or claim they have, they've had conversations with God, and all of this, this bullshit, that, and these con men, only do the shit just to gain money, So, getting back, into what I read for myself, it's just like the jigsaw. Everything you do, you figure it out for yourself. That's natural for you, That's the natural thing, is to figure it out for yourself. I mean, what if you was alone? Would you know about God? What if you was a man that never been raised around humanity? It's some people out there that never heard of a God. God is foreign to them. The devil and all that shit. All that shit is foreign to them. So if they hear of God and in a lot of the figures that's put out there as God figures, like Kim Kardashian and Jesus, and all that shit is put out. You heard of him, you ain't heard of him, you crazy, or God is the same way. Not everybody know and need to know about a God or Satan. And realizing that, I had to counsel all the spiritual teachers. Counsel them, blank. You gone. I had to know this for myself. It was no knowledge that I could learn. People go through years and years listening to gurus on how to, create a fantasy. How they fantasy could come to life. How to create their own reality. They fascinate with that shit. That controls their life. How to make a better life is the whole focus of really the American population. The American dream is, to drive Rolls Royces or live in big houses. That's the country we're living in, or any other country, any other survival, mechanism they teach for us to live in their reality or whatever. But getting back into, the understanding of yours, your own understanding. I mean, you can't listen to nobody. Everybody got to go. You got to drop everybody. I mean, nobody can't be around. You got to be totally alone. You afraid of that. It's just like letting go of a drug. It's a high to you to listen to the gurus. It's a high to listen to. It's that that poetry and that feeling of love is a high. And the gurus, they promises love. The same thing as the preacher man. Getting back into that. I grew up, son of a preacher man or whatever. I aspired to be a preacher. You know what I'm saying? But I always wanted to know everything for myself. So as soon as I stopped reading, not stop reading, but stop reading, then looking to somebody to interpret. Like if I get stuck on a scripture or whatever, then I go to turn on some TV or go to somebody's church so they can tell me how, what this means and what that means. And that basically runs your whole life. People, interpreting what you were seeing. I mean, when I seen it for myself or whatever, I understood. I understood for myself. I understood I had to let everything go. The Bible just did not seem what it was, what I was taught when I was a little kid. It looked like a cartoon. When I read it for myself, I interpreted it as a cartoon. That's how far from reality it was.